everyone for joining AI and analytics discussion and connecting. We have three panelists who are joining us today to give you some insight on AI and careers in AI. And I will be the moderator. So let me introduce myself. My name is Thyrsa Gravely. I work with Avanade, and Avanade is a consulting firm that is a partnership between Microsoft and Accenture. What I do with Avanade is I serve as a business manager in business operations. I help the chief operating officer of our region with the rhythm of the business. And today I'm helping with the rhythm of this meeting. So with that, let me just give you an overview of our panelists. And as they talk, they'll give you a little more about their backgrounds and answer a few questions. And then at the end, we'll open it up for questions from all of you. And of course, you can always put things in the chat and we'll try to cover those things at the end of the session as well. So our first panelist is Stephanie Thompson. She is a data and AI solution architect in advanced analytics with Avanade. She has over 20 years of experience in analytics, statistical programming, and data science. She's an accomplished data scientist with the ability to translate data into actionable insights. She partners with clients to enable them to use their data to inform decision-making by leveraging the Microsoft Azure technology stack. Then we also have Kathryn Papandrew. She works with Microsoft and is a director within the AI machine learning technical specialist global black belt team. She works as a subject matter expert and engineer, helping major enterprises plan, build, implement, and adopt advanced, secure, and responsible artificial intelligence capabilities, including machine learning, cognitive services, and knowledge mining scenarios across the cloud and the edge. And then we also have Dr. Aditi Banerjee. She is a member of the advisory board for WITI. She serves as a speaker at international conferences, webinars, and diversity initiatives. She's an advocate of women in STEM and mentors professionals in career development. She is a results-oriented executive in technology who has worked at Accenture, Texas Instruments, Infosys, HCL, and DXC Technology. She served in managing director, vice president, and general manager roles, driving profitable growth and leading large teams. And so with that, the first question that I have, I'm going to direct it to Stephanie. So Stephanie, maybe you can start off by giving us a little more insight about you, like where do you live and anything else about your career that you think is important for the audience to know. But the question is, AI has the potential to transform industries and society as a whole. How can we ensure that women's voices and perspectives are heard and integrated into the development of AI applications that impact our daily lives?
Right. Thank you, Thyrsa. So I am an industrial engineer by degree, and I have an MBA. So I didn't start out in a data science major. They actually didn't exist when I went to college, but I always loved programming. And that just really has led to a career in analytics, statistical programming, and all things data. So that is sort of how I ended up in the role that I am currently. I've worked for a lot of different industries, higher education, retail, nuclear waste reprocessing, and the common theme was always data. And personally, I am in Memphis, Tennessee, so I'm kind of in the middle of the South. So that's a bit about me, but you're probably less interested in that. You'd rather hear the answer to the question. And I'm going to split my answer into two parts. And one part is about you getting involved in the work of AI and developing that domain. And the second part is about how you do that work. and what can you bring that I think is very important to AI. And if getting involved in AI in any of its forms, there's so much now. Things are just growing at a very rapid pace. Find ways to get involved at your company, at hackathons, anywhere. Find out where that work is going on and involve yourself. And then take the opportunity to learn about AI and the technologies and the skills, because to really be able to play a role, you need to understand the tools, and that will help you out because that will set you up for success. But also, as you get involved, this is some very good advice that I received from a webinar, was make sure that your involvement is what was termed promotable work. Make sure that it's not, I'm volunteering to order the donuts for the meeting. Make sure your contribution has meaning and that you're doing something that, even though it might be volunteer work, it is still contributing to the bottom line and the tasks at hand. So that's the about you part. The second part that I will add, which is about the AI process itself. One of the things that is very important when you are developing models and working with data is to make sure to evaluate and eliminate bias. Bias has a tendency to creep into things, and people don't always think about that. When you are working with data, and it's very challenging with a lot of these large language models and other models that have been trained on the entire internet, so to speak, to really see how it's learning. But you can do things yourself to make sure that you are not putting women or any other group at a disadvantage as you are building models. So look at the training data. Are women represented within the data? Are the perspectives brought in? If the training data set includes authors or pictures, is it a wide variety of people? Is it a wide variety of sources? Does that distribution model the population that you are looking to serve? So if you're creating a model on who should get loans, look at who had gotten loans previously. Is it equally distributed between men and women? Does it seem fair? Does the results of the model, are they equitable? Or is it just picking up a pattern that already existed that it shouldn't have picked up? So that is really where I think women and just people of diverse backgrounds bring benefit into the AI space, is making sure that these views are representative and that it is fair. Because a lot of times I have been in meetings with people and they're like, it's just data. How could it be biased? It's a model. It doesn't know bias. And I beg to differ. And with that, I will end this question.
Okay. All right. Is there a certain minimum that you think should be diverse within a set of data as to what people can look for as a standard when they're trying to analyze the data?
I think the easiest way to do it is to really look at the population you're trying to serve. So say, I'll go back to the loan example. If you are looking at Memphis, Tennessee, for example, and what are the demographics of Memphis? Male, female, and different race and ethnic categories. So loans should be granted similarly to the distribution. So if there's 50% women, 50% of loans, you would expect to go ballpark to women as well. So I say, look at what you're trying to represent, and model that as a guideline. There's no real hard and fast rule,
Yeah.
but
All right. Great guidance there. And what you said about the things that you volunteer to do, it reminded me of when I used to lead an intern program that we had when I worked at Deloitte. One thing that I tell the managers that I wanted them to do with all of their interns is to give them something that they could put on their resume or add to their LinkedIn profile. You know, having them file things is not something that's going to be rewarding to put on their resume. And so maybe that sort of follows what you were advising as well. All right, so next question goes to Kit or Kathryn. Tell us a little more about your background as well, and how would you answer this question? Share an example of a project or initiative that you've been involved in where diversity of thought and perspective led to a more innovative solution or outcome.
Thank you. So hi, everybody. I am Kathryn. I also go by Kit, as Thyrsa just mentioned. And my background, I also have an industrial engineering degree for my bachelor's. So glad to see that. And I have a master's in information and data science that I got years after I graduated from my bachelor's degree. And my experience has been in software engineering and data science and data engineering. So the challenge of both the data representation that Stephanie was talking about, plus operationalizing that and making sure that you're building in tooling to detect bias or drift or all of those risks also have been top of mind. So very glad to hear that discussed. In terms of diversity of thought and opinion in a project and how that contributed to a better outcome, this is super cheesy, but I always do say to people that diversity is not even just for the selfless, so to speak. Like there's excellent outcomes even for the selfish or the self-serving or the business oriented, or that it just serves everyone no matter what your motivation is, which is great because then you can kind of bring everyone on board regardless of their motivation. And an example of that is that I was on a team that was building out tooling for our entire engineering organization to use. And we wanted to really build in certain data and variables to be able to do lagging and leading indicator development and be able to analyze our projects more deeply, figure out how good outcomes were propagated. And we had a team that we had put together from different parts of the business, so diversity of background and experience. We had diversity in gender and in ethnicity. And so what that brought was a different lens on how we thought about, selecting projects, or how we thought about developing good requirements and assessing for risk. And we also had diversity in levels. So like experience in your background around more executive or more senior in career versus more junior in career. And all of those layers contributed to being able to build out a system that now at Microsoft is sort of the hallmark of excellence, so to speak, in managing a business in engineering that's client facing. And the pattern that we develop, the variables that we capture, and even the user experience itself around accessibility and capturing opinions, thoughts, more qualitative data from folks of all abilities also has helped us be able to make sure that our projects have better outcomes. So not only does the tool itself function super well to the point where it's a pattern across Microsoft now, but also it helps us continuously. I'm not on that team anymore, but serve our customers better because we're able to take information, data from other projects that had good outcomes and use that to contribute into new projects and lessons learned that we don't have to overcome obstacles that we've already overcome, and just makes us a better business and I think better people.
All right, great example. Next question is for Aditi, Dr. Aditi. Tell us a little more about your background and also think about how the field of AI is rapidly evolving. How do you stay updated and continue to develop your skills in this dynamic industry? And what resources do you recommend for women looking to do the same? And I know Stephanie touched on this a little bit, but perhaps you can expand and give your perspective as well.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Thyrsa. And thank you, Kathryn and Stephanie, for sharing your views. So fascinating, this field. And I am truly inspired by this field. You know, I started my career as a material science and engineering leader, very different from data and analytics, right? Or AI and analytics for that matter. My degree, PhD, is in material science and engineering. And in that curriculum, I got trained to learn many different disciplines of engineering, because as a PhD, you have to kind of learn chemical, material science, electrical engineering, and you kind of have to have a well-rounded experience in different fields of engineering, and then you have to specialize in a particular area. So mine was semiconductor materials. So, you know, I progressed into working at Texas Instruments after my education, finishing my PhD. I went into working in semiconductor manufacturing, and I would work with sophisticated equipment manufacturing, maintenance of equipment in high volume manufacturing, producing semiconductor chips, and various process parameters. So I would come across statistics and uptime of equipment and et cetera, and a lot of unscheduled downtimes, which meant I was up at night, but unscheduled downtime of equipments, trying to see how I can get those equipments back up. And then a few years later, I stumbled upon this concept of Industry 4.0 and predictive maintenance, right? Which was basically bringing in the concept of data and analytics, AI and machine learning to predict the downtime, you know, that predict the failure machine and the requirement of maintenance, rather than it just failing unscheduled. You would be able to predict it, schedule it, and be able to avoid the unscheduled downtime. So I got fascinated by the field, inspired by my real life example, and I started studying more and more about Industry 4.0. And luckily for me, I got many projects in that area. And through different types of real life projects, I started learning about analytics and AI and Industry 4.0, which brings together many technologies of cloud, connectivity, data, AI, together to create business outcomes. So the way that I learned was through different online courses. You can get lots of different online courses that are available today. And I'll give you several options. You all can pick whatever works best for you. So some online courses that are available through Wharton, UT Austin, Kellogg's, and they are of different duration. It's a 3-month class or a year course or 2 years. Just depends on how deep you want to go and what you want to learn. So there are different programs available. There are some really good books that you could read. For example, there's one book on artificial intelligence, a modern approach by Stuart Russell and Peter Norvig. And there's also a book on deep learning by Ian Goodfellow. I love both books. They're great books. Then there's also tutorials and articles that are available on various websites like Towards Data Science or AI News and other websites. I also I would also recommend WITI Wins, the session that you're here today, and there's also the Generative AI Think Tank, which is run bi-weekly by WITI, where you'll see AI professionals and like-minded professionals coming in and building a community and a network of learning about generative AI, having very interactive discussions, and everybody's thoughts, inputs are welcome at whatever levels of maturity you are in AI. And we kind of discuss, think, and grow together as professionals. And I also recommend WITI's upcoming annual summit on October 26th. And Dr. Lisa Palmer, who's an AI specialist, is going to be speaking. And there are many other talks which are centered around AI and using AI for different industries. A great way to learn about AI and different applications of AI. So WITI is doing a lot in this area. Plus, with the help of different classes, different online courses, and different programs, and you could also watch YouTube and learn quite a bit. You could build your background in AI. Now, not everybody needs to be a coder. Not everybody needs to be technically very deep. You could be doing, so many different things in AI. You could be change management. You could be operating model specialist. You could be a consultant. You could be a data strategist. You could work on data governance. You could work on more on the sales and the engagement side, doing strategy with AI. There's so many different things you could be doing and still be associated with data analytics and AI. There's so many options in this world to be associated with this area. I would also recommend one more thing on generative AI, which is taking the world by storm, right? Because of the power and the capability of generative AI. And, I have done a series on generative AI and applications in various industries in healthcare, aerospace, automotive, manufacturing, and the power of AI and generative AI to transform the industries. It's not perfect, but it's the move in the right direction. I also think that I'll recommend you to one more source where I have seen some great examples of generative AI, and these are demos, right? It's called exlservice.com. If you go to that website and you find there's a particular talk, and there are certain demos there which will show how the power of generative AI in transforming contact centers, in transforming how software engineers can accelerate coding and development, right? Real life examples, the power of generative AI. I found it very interesting. So you may be able to get some ideas on inspiration by looking at those. So those are some of my thoughts I wanted to share with you, Thyrsa. Yeah, thank you.
Great. And Dr. Aditi, I forgot to mention that I reside in Atlanta. Where are you based?
I'm in Dallas. Yes.
You're in Dallas. Okay. Okay, great. So sort of to go along with what you just talked about, the next question is, what advice do you have for women who are interested in pursuing a career in data and AI, but may be hesitant due to the underrepresentation of women in the field? So Dr. Aditi, since you were just giving all these suggestions of resources to look into, maybe you could sort of address anything that may deal with hesitancy due to the underrepresentation of women. So you can take all of these classes, but how can I get my foot in the door as a woman?
Yeah, I think there is a shortage of talent today in the industry. And, if you have the skills, if you have, if you're a great candidate, I think the door opens, irrespective of what your gender is. You see all of us here, we are women, and we have had the right opportunities for us. And, here at WITI, we have a community, please be a part of this community. We champion each other, we support each other. And if there's any hesitancy, just reach out to any of us. We are here to coach, we are here to mentor, we are here to support you, right? We will open the doors for you. And if you don't have the right opening, we will connect you to someone who can help open doors. So please don't be hesitant. Please don't be that the reason for not pursuing your passion in STEM. There's always opportunities. There's so many opportunities here in STEM for everyone. Yes.
Okay. Kit, how would you answer that question? What advice do you have for those who may be hesitant due to the underrepresentation of women?
Totally agree with Aditi on not letting fear be the reason why you don't step into an opportunity. I think that as I look back on my own journey and what I've taken that I now use going forward is, am I the one in my own way with feeling like an imposter? And my advice would be, just whenever you feel like you are hesitating or that there's a blocker in the way, I now assess for myself and would give the same advice to see if you are in your own way with the imposter syndrome or fear, or if there really is like an externality to the blocker. Frequently in my own career, it's been an internal blocker more than an external blocker. And so now I just use that as my first bit of assessment. It's like, is this my fear talking? Or is this a real problem, a real blocker that needs to be externally dealt with? Because so often it's been me and a chip on my shoulder, especially as an underrepresented demographic, for sure. You automatically, when there's differences between you and the majority, you start to assess if there's something wrong, quote unquote, hopefully everyone's seeing me, with you, and that's really just a total lie. So yeah, be your own best advocate, and by that same token, don't let your own mentality be in your way.
Right. Yeah, and I have seen studies that said that women often won't apply for a position unless they fit all of the bullets that are listed there. So let's say that there are 10 bullets listed there, and they won't apply for it unless they fit all 10, whereas a man might apply if he only fits 2, and he gets to come in for an interview and wiggle his way around the other things, but we are less likely to do that. And so sort of having that confidence in yourself that Kit talked about, should give you the encouragement to go ahead and apply for that position, even if it's only 2 bullets that you feel, because that's what others might do as well. All right, Stephanie, do you have any suggestions or advice for women who are interested in a career in data and AI, but may be hesitant due to the underrepresentation of women in the field?
Sure. I guess the one thing I would say, both Dr. Aditi and Kit talked about fear, and don't let that stop you. And I have always had interests that have put me in the minority forever. My interests are, I grew up working on cars. I like to code. I was an engineer at a school where it was, predominantly males. But I really didn't even think about it because that was what I was interested in. That's what I wanted to learn. So don't let other people step in front of your agenda and what you want to do. And sometimes it might be a little odd. Sometimes you'll be in groups where people are going to have conversations that maybe you're just not interested in, could care less about. And that's okay, because you can get that in any group of people that you are involved in. And what will make you feel stronger when you feel like you're the odd man out in the room? And that was kind of a weird way to phrase that in this context. But when you know your stuff, when you've learned, when you have the experience, keep that confidence with you. When you are speaking up in a meeting, state your opinion. Don't make it sound like a question. Go in with the confidence that you know you have, because you know things and you will provide benefit to the rest of that room. So keep the confidence with yourself and what you understand. And, just make sure that you are presenting things from that place of knowledge that you're coming from, because I know that's where you're coming from. But sometimes in meetings, it doesn't always come out that way. And the last bit of advice that I will mention, a lot of times people talk about having mentors, and mentors are great because they provide a lot of advice, but there are some limitations with mentors. I would also ask you to seek out a sponsor or a formal ally, someone that is in a position to help you succeed in a more formal way. And there is a very distinct difference between those two groups. And getting someone that will put your name forward in a meeting, or, hey, I know somebody that can do this, that will help you, really is a good thing to have. And sometimes it is your mentor, but sometimes it's a slightly different role or a different person that can do that. And, see who you can find, because I think we all help each other, but that's just one thing that has helped me over the years.
All right. Well, thank you, team. We're now open for any questions from those who are in the audience. I don't see any questions in the chat, so if anyone has a question that you'd like to ask, please share it with us.
Hey, yeah, this is Chandra. I have a question. So to Stephanie, like earlier on when you were working with data, how did you go about dealing with, like unconscious bias and also like biases that may arise that you may not know? Did you sort of like, how do you go about it in some ways?
I'm not quite sure I understand the question. So are you talking about biases that I would have, or that I was seeing in the data?
Influence, in you working with data in some way.
Well, I think a lot of it is keeping an open mind and realizing that you have blind spots, because we all have them, but we don't know what they are. And a lot of times the biggest temptation is to go into an evaluation thinking you know the answer. Well, I know that this is what the result's going to be, so I really don't have to look at this very closely. Or I am going to discount this because I'm seeing something in the data that I didn't expect. So it's really trying to go in, whenever you're looking at data, more from a perspective of curiosity, because you could just put a bunch of data in front of me and I'll be lost in it for a couple hours and just start looking at it and digging through it and seeing what it's telling me, because I try to think of it from that perspective. Is I'm not telling the data what it is. It needs to tell me something.
Yeah.
So I think it's really just having that understanding that, I bring my history with me. And if I start seeing myself looking at things in a particular way, I'll step back and try to ask myself, is that correct? Is that really the right way to look at this?
Gotcha. Yeah, I understand that. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. Looks like Javita put in the chat, how do you test to find out if the data model represents the population of interest, and in the parentheses, women or others? Who would like to tackle that question?
I can take that. So, and both my academic work and my professional work, it's required quite a bit of research. So at the forefront, understanding what Stephanie was saying about going in curious will lead you to places that you did not expect to go, which helps when you're gathering objective information. There are, depending on what you're studying, there are sources of record, primary sources that talk about populations of interest, that give you statistics around the demographic breakdown or whatever the feature is that you're trying to learn more about. And so that, first and foremost, definitely find objective primary source information that will give you an idea about the population. And there's a part of this beyond just the data that's very important that plays into the data, which is 90% of the work in designing a model and getting to production with it is actually in the experimental design phase. And understanding, defining the problem and spending a lot of time defining the problem and what you're aiming to solve, and then finding data for that and not the other way around. You should be in search of a solution and not in search of a problem, if that makes sense. And so when you are investing the time in clearly defining what your problem is that you're solving, and then spending a lot of due diligence in doing exploratory data analysis associated with that problem, and investing in the univariate and bivariate and all of the collinearity analyses, et cetera, that takes so much time, data pre-processing, feature selection, et cetera, in order to be able to use it for some purpose, analytics or data science, you're going to be in a much better spot because you're going to understand the data so deeply and the problem that data is explaining, that by the time you get to actually choosing the methodology that you're going to apply to solve it, you have done so much of the heavy lifting, and you're aware of the problem from a non-technical lens so well that you're going to be in just such a better spot to solve it objectively.
Davida, did that cover what you were curious about?
Well, no, because I don't have time to do all of that. I was thinking more in terms of trying to use things like ChatGPT and making sure that it's not so male biased that the women's point of view doesn't necessarily show through. So I was just really wondering, how can you tell that the data that you're working with, especially if you aren't in a position to do all of that research, actually covers the population that you're interested in a kind of neutral way, as opposed to being slanted toward the male viewpoint, because that's like in a lot of research, it's the male point of view shows up in the research and not the female point of view. So I was, I know David told me at one point that you kind of put your own data set together, but I don't know how to do that, and I don't have time to do that, and it's not what I was really interested in doing, but just using the data that's available to come up with some answers for my target market. So I don't know if that helps or not, but I'm just really trying to figure out how to best use what's already available and not have to do too much additional work to figure that part out. Does that make sense to you guys?
It makes sense, but I think sometimes there's really value in taking that time, at least as much as possible, because without spending that extra time, you're sort of depending on what, and I'll just use generative AI as an example, is going to give you as an answer. And there's a lot of different ways to ask a question, and you can kind of put it through its paces, asking the same questions in different ways to see how that influences the response. But it's sort of like if you really want to make sure you need to spend some of that extra time and, or profile the data or look at the sources, because as we all know, there is a lot of good and bad data out there. Mm-hmm. And now with generative AI and how that works, you can hear about, even with some of the common data sets used for image processing, that data could be really poisoned at the pixel level to throw models off, that it really is important to make sure the data are good as best you can.
All right. Here's another question that's in the chat. Becky asks, what do you recommend for getting real life experience outside of taking classes, especially online classes, so you get actual experience working with the tools so that you can use that experience to help you get a job. Anyone want to take that one? I think it was one way it was touched on earlier had to do with things that you may volunteer for within the company that you work for or for other outside organizations that helps you get experience using some tools that's outside of your actual job. And so that may be something that, you know, one of our panelists wants to expand on.
I can talk about it just because I hire a lot of data scientists these days, and also software engineers. So just from my perspective, but I would love to hear the other panelists' perspective as well from their lens. But what I usually recommend if you're in assuming you're talking about data science or data engineering, but even software engineering as well, open source projects are a great place to start looking through. There are, depending on your area of interest, there are different foundations that kind of oversee open source projects. And so that's always something that's great because it has a real application. It'll be used by real people, and the barrier to entry is the skill set. So you can start small and work your way up in complexity on features that are in the backlog. So there's that. Kaggle, if you are trying to learn, especially data science, Kaggle. I love that site because it has open source data sets. I use them now to do learning on, even in my day-to-day job today. But they have challenges that they publish that you can work on in your spare time as you have time for it. It's not, you know, on a deadline or anything like that. And there are lots of challenges that are already closed, so to speak, on the site, but that still have the data available. They still have the problem statement available. And so you can, even after you've kind of taken a first stab at it, go and look at other solutions and see how others solve it. And why I love those two routes is because you come out with something tangible that you could show in a portfolio to a recruiter or an interviewer, talk through how you solved a problem beyond going on, again, if you're in the engineering lens, LEET Code, L-E-E-T code, is a popular site for people to go practice coding problems. And that's great. It helps you learn. It helps you get good at solving complex coding problems. But what's limiting about that is that it's so siloed to just like one tiny little problem compared to building out sort of a solution. And so I love the coding challenges that are more like open source projects or practical projects, so that you can go in and speak to how you solve problems, not just from the actual implementation, but how you approached the design and the problem solving, so that an employer can get a sense for your process, which is equally, if not more important.
Okay. Dr. Aditi, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to add that because I've spent my last many years in consulting, you know, we get tons of projects to work on, right? Big and small, where there's a lot of opportunity to get on these projects and get experience with different tools and technologies, such as, you know, it could be something simple like Power BI or something more complex like developing, you know, AI models. So just depending on where you are in your journey, you could plug in and learn and grow in AI. So consulting provides great opportunities to do that, like hands-on project, and you could start at your comfort level and grow from there, you know, with different projects if you didn't want to take a class or, you know, take a formal method of training. Okay.
All right. Any other questions out there?
I can just add one other quick
ahead,
thing on this as well, is to some of the points that are already made. There are also some, you know, data for good organizations that you can get involved with, because that will help you to see a project end to end, and you can volunteer there, because it's not like you could just go to your local organization and say, hey, I want to do a data science project for you. Let me access your data. It probably will, you won't get too far, but there are a lot of organizations that they do that on a regular basis. And another thing I'll suggest is I teach a capstone course for a MS in data science, and I let the students choose their own project. And the main reason is if you're going to do something for a semester, you want to enjoy it, you want to be engaged with it. So maybe, is there something you always wanted to try to do? Well, just go try to do it. You know, figure out how you can get the tools. Can you get a trial on a cloud platform? What can you do to just put something together for yourself or that you always wanted to learn? And that will give you experience, and it will help you to develop those skills. And it is still experience, and there are ways to represent that kind of experience on a resume so that it will get picked up by the AI text parser and get you the interview. So just another thought.
All right. It looks like we may have time for one more question. Okay. Well, if no more questions, let me throw one out there since Stephanie talked about, oh, I see one hand raised. Mafe?
Hi, thank you. I think I might as well take the last chance
Okay.
because I'm sitting in the edge of my seat, hearing all the things that just resonates with me. I'm an industrial designer by profession, and I have my background is in international business and real estate. And I recently completed my business analytics program and currently enrolled in AI and machine learning.
Oh.
And I would like to, and I don't know how, I would like to be able to use the knowledge that I'm going to be learning and I already had learned to create positive impact in the world. And I don't know how. It's kind of far reaching, but I am boldly expressing my intention because I just would like to be involved in meaningful projects. And I'd like to intend it at the beginning instead of just finding my way through. And I think I found a lot of inspiration here today. And I just would like to say thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. And I think you'll do great things. You'll create great impacts. As you go through your program, I don't know if you're still in touch with your professors. You could brainstorm with them, because they are usually in the forefront, of their industry or their research. They're looking at what's the next 5 years going to look like, where are the places to create most impact, right? You could brainstorm a few things with them where you
Yes.
could what areas you could work on.
It's very interesting because one of my professors became the dean of the John Paulson School of Engineering in Harvard. And just recently he started October 15, and he keeps on telling me, you must send me a mail, like update me or something like that. And I kind of was shy of in doing that. And thank you for the encouragement, Aditi.
Absolutely. Don't be shy. If there's one advice all three of us, at least from my side, I can give you, and I know you all are very highly esteemed as well. Don't be shy.
Thank you.
Go out there, and if he has made you an offer, you should definitely get on his calendar. And the goal would be to make him into a sponsor for you, right? So someone who will be your advocate, who will guide you, and at the right time can give you some sponsorship as well, right? So you could think about that as well. Yeah.
Thank
right.
you. I truly
Okay.
appreciate this, these insights and the kind words you've said. Thank you.
All right.
Most welcome.
Well, thank you everyone for participating in today's session. WITI has this AI and analytics discussion and connecting on the third Thursday of every month. So feel free to join again next month in November at the same time. And I'm sure there'll be another interesting and helpful conversation held about AI analytics. David, was there anything else that you want to say before we close?
Yeah, no, thank you all so much for a great session. As Aditi mentioned, we do have the two generative AI think tanks every month. So we're continuing to learn every week, excuse me, several weeks. One is running. Training our AI or the intelligence so that it can really learn from us, work with us. And maybe we don't have to, that can shorten some of these time frames, I think, Jovita, for what you're working on. Thank you guys. And then later this afternoon, we do have Pamela Fusco, most recently CISO of Splunk, but she'll be leading our cybersecurity discussion. So thank you all for sharing the wisdom. We hope to see you at some WITI events soon. And awesome session. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks a
Have a
lot.
good day.
Thank
Thank you.